All right, here we go. New day. New day. Starting to get the energy back. Thank God. Past couple days, the jet lag thing, getting your body back in the groove it's brutal. And I know people are gonna go, "Oh, you poor thing." A friend of mine said that to me yesterday. "You poor thing. You're holidaying for a month." That's got nothing to do with it. What I'm talking about is the jet lag part. When you're on the other side of the planet, whether you're holidaying or working, who gives a shit? But when you're over there for however long, and then you fly back direct, whew, one go, don't sleep, and then you get home, and it's 6:30 in the morning here, but your mental clock is, what was it, midnight or something, 1 o'clock in the morning, and you didn't sleep the whole way, and then you get home, and there's nothing but things to do. Holy shit, things to do. Trees falling down everywhere. The horses got into the hay and annihilated it. The front jack of my other boat broke off, and the thing full of water. It's just like you get home and there's no energy at all, and you're frazzled, and you look around and you've got the natural need to get going and get everything done, and you just can't. It's a very frustrating feeling. This isn't a bad thing to do, just to sit in my little man cave and take the time out and get some voices heard, but it's tough. There's my little rant. Feeling way better, thank God. It's like when you're in the middle of it, it's almost like having the flu. It's like, please make it go away. This is taking forever. But anyways, on a side note, I chopped the shit out of my finger yesterday with this razor frickin' sharp knife. Bam! And, whatever, bandaged it up. And Ruby, maybe you dog owners will know what's up, but she's like fighting me to get her nose to the wound. And then grabbing at my arm with her paw and pulling it in and needing to smell the wound. And then, and it's not infected. It's totally clean and fine. Same thing. Woke up this morning. The first thing she's doing, she's following my hand around like I've got a treat in it. Just needed to smell the cut. It's really weird. And I'm like looking at Sarah. I'm like, what's she doing? I'm not a treat. You know, and she's like, oh, she's trying to heal you. Or whatever. But it's just weird to see a dog, the dog, reacting to your wound that way and singling it out of everything in the whole house and your body, and mashing her nose into my thumb and needing to smell it intently and following it around like it's a Scooby snack, right? That's really weird. Maybe somebody out there will know what that's all about, because I don't. But anyway, try not to babble too much. I'm obviously jacked up on a couple of coffees. It's absolutely pissing rain still. And I've got my heater going in here, so you know how I am about the background sounds. I don't like them. And I know everybody usually says, I can't hear nothing. So, good. I'm going to let it go then. And I'm going to get some more things heard here, and then I'm going to keep on doing things around here and getting this cave set up to get some people in here as fast as I can. Got a couple podcasts I agreed to do. One's a hunting one. Anyway, babbling, rambling. What do we got? What do we got? Oh, this is a follow-up. Follow-up! RE, multiple events that add up to strange is the title of this email. Hello, Steve. I just wanted to add a couple of things that I forgot about my story in the Smoky Mountains when I was a kid. Feel free to add this to the first when you read it. Okay, here it goes. Okay, so I guess this was sent in after the first one. Oops. I think this is where the guy was a kid and that being picked him up and pulled him into its chest, I think. Of course, my mom was a real woman of God. She was a licensed minister and devoted prayer warrior and truly stayed involved in some form of ministry or another most of her life. We had taken a week off in the summer for family time, and my parents were hardworking people who enjoyed fun, so we were making the best of it and trying to see all we could as a family. So, my being with my older brother hiking a few short miles wouldn't be out of the ordinary for our family since my brother was 9 years older. He was typically the in-house babysitter when my parents needed someone to watch me. Not everyone knew he was sometimes mean to me, the kind of mean you don't soon forget and are careful not to provoke. That's really shitty. That's really, really shitty. I wonder how he came about that quality. Because it doesn't sound like he inherited it from your parents. My mom always erred to the side of her faith in Christ whenever humanly possible and believed God always had it under control. And when I was picked up by this large hairy being and transported back to my family miles down the trail, and I don't remember quite how we got from point A to point B, but we got there. And I was very thankful because I had been left behind on the trail by my brother and was alone and crying at 6 years old. I remember that terrifying feeling to this day. And it's sad that in general, a person can't really openly talk about these things. That is a lot of weight on a 6-year-old. This being gently took me up and transported me with it to within a couple hundred yards of my parents' camper, and then put me down and tapped my butt in the direction of the camper to let me know it had brought me back to help me find my parents. Now remember, I got separated because of the blisters on my feet, and the brand new hard leather boots I was wearing weren't broken in, and my feet were bleeding when I stopped. That really sucks. That pain is bad. Believe me, I've seen a lot of people with blisters over the years, and it's not a good thing. Watching grown men wince up in the mountains. And my feet were bleeding when I stopped. Here's the thing I forgot about yesterday when I emailed you because I was nervous and trying to recall everything, and somehow I forgot to mention the oddest thing about all of this. When I got back to the camper where my parents were, they were instantly thinking it was my brother who had found me, and in the rush to get everyone in the right place, after now finding me and getting me back, they began to focus their attention on my brother. Okay, no punctuation again, all right? So bear with me. And I was standing on the back of the camper steps looking back into the path where I just come and off to the side. The two beings I had encountered were standing behind the trees right just inside the woods and watching. And she poked her head out when my parents were up in the front of the truck and talking. And I know it sounds strange, but I sensed it was trying to communicate, but realized it was talking to my mom. And my mom immediately came back to me and said she got a word from the Holy Spirit that my brother was coming back and would be back in a minute and everything was all right. And then he pops out of the woods from the trail within a couple of minutes. Then my mom decides to check me over since she felt the danger was over and the kids were all back and everything seemed back on track, so to speak. So she comes back and prays with me for thanks to God. And she starts asking me questions. And I said, the woman in the woods helped me find my way out. And I think she passed that off as God answering her prayers and sending an angel to save me. I don't know. Then my mom began asking me about the blisters I had on my feet, which had basically ended up causing this lost episode. She knew the blisters were bad She knew the blisters were bad to begin with and was skeptical about me going in the first place, so she figured they might possibly need attention. So we were talking as she was unlacing my boots, which, by the way, the boots were back on my feet and fully laced up, and I don't remember how that happened either. And then took off my socks. And I remember thinking, wow, feet don't really hurt right now. And she got the boots off and the socks were still bloody, and she removed them. But my feet had no blisters on them, Steve. Not one on either boot. On either foot. No shit. Not even a mark in the skin where one had been. It was strange, and I remember when this being first picked me up that there was like a buzzing that happened in my feet. And then after that, I sort of forgot about the feet and was paying more attention to these creatures and trying to understand what was going on. I was overwhelmed at that age, Steve. I believe this being healed my wounds or somehow interceded and got God himself to do it. I don't need to know how it happened to know it happened. But my wounds were affected when I was first picked up from where I was sitting beside the tree. I have to believe they had something to do with it. Now here comes the really weird part. Because it's not weird yet, is it? Just kidding. I suddenly was empowered to do things I didn't do before and overcame what teachers thought was ADD over that summer. Somehow, they said. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking about that, Steve. I was behind every kid in school the year before that summer. Every kid in the class would be done with their worksheets, and I couldn't stay focused, and I sort of daydreamed off and couldn't control it. I know it sounds weird, Steve, but I still remember this because when kids pick on you for what you can't do and should be able to do, and they can all do what you can't, then you can almost count on some of the kids picking on you. But about it, I got picked on really bad about this. Punctuation, you guys, all right? No big deal. I struggled with it. The daydreaming, which led to me being behind all the time. It was something I could not control, and it was embarrassing. I remembered this. It was real to me. It happened. And then when I came back to school in the fall, I was in the top of my class. And all of a sudden, I was on top of my class all of a sudden in schoolwork. Like all of a sudden, I functioned like I was supposed to. My mind didn't wander off into daydreams without me realizing it when it happened. I was able to control it. And when I did my first athletic competition at age 8 through punt, pass, and kick, I suddenly was throwing and kicking the ball farther than even I thought I would be able to. I was ahead of every kid my age. I became an overachiever in a few things, and although you couldn't tell by my grades in school, I was tested and tested out in the top 5% in the nation my senior year. I don't know. I am curious if it is possible they healed my brain somehow too when they picked me up. Do you think it is possible? Like maybe I was tagged somehow responsibly by them because once they help them, they are required to make sure they look in on them or something because things happen to me. Sometimes I can't explain. And I have to wonder just how far the spectrum goes on the abilities and loyalties of these beings. Are they still watching me? Sometimes I have thought I could feel something watching me outside, especially in the woods. I mean, these beings have young and are protective of them. That speaks of family orientation. They are not beasts, or they would just wipe us all out. There is something more to all of this than we will probably ever know, but since it's all about the knowing, people like our round table will keep seeking knowledge anyway. It is important that you are doing this, Steve. Keep it going. Even if you get burned out and need guest readers once in a while, people are going to feel better getting this off their chests. I know I do. Thanks for letting me update my story. Sorry I forgot to mention these things yesterday. It was my first time writing in and I was nervous. God bless you and Sarah, Steve, and your goats, because I am the goat guy. Haha. If you want milk to drink that tastes good, try the Alpine or Toggenburg breed. We used to sell to a dairy in my teens. When it is cared for properly, it tastes just like 2% cow's milk. I watched people drink it and think that's what it was. Smiles. Anyway, thanks, Steve, for taking all the time to do this. I'll pray for you. If you ever get to Michigan, you're welcome at my table anytime. I want to buy a round table of knowledge sweatshirt. Is this possible? Thanks, Sean Toth. Sure it is. But I appreciate you sending that in, man. And I think you probably know at this stage of the game, there's most definitely going to be a handful of people that think, yeah, right, but the truth of the matter is, there is a lot more to this than we realize, right? There's a lot more to everything than we realize. It's unfortunate. But that's why we're here, right? We're getting there. We are getting there. We are being forced to realize a lot of things here that we did not even have a half a thought about a few years ago. A lot of us, right? Not all of us, that's for sure, but a lot of us, especially me. But I would think that everybody would agree by now. You don't have to. Nobody has to agree with shit here. That listening to every single person word for word is very, very important in this lifetime. for those who want to learn more and get through with this big quagmire bullshit that's been created around us since we were kids. And then, of course, there's going to be a lot of people that just seem to have to sound the alarm and say, yeah, well, there's a lot of bullshit stories too. Really, Sherlock? No shit. Really? Thank God you just notified us of that. Right? Right? There has to be bullshit for us to realize the truth. End of story. There you go. We have to. We have to listen to everyone. And our number one screw up in life is putting one human being, one person right there and being taught to keep your mouth shut. Listen to them. If you don't, you're in trouble. Repeat after them. If you don't, you're in trouble. Repeat accurately what they said to you. If you don't, you're in trouble. That's one of the biggest F-ups we've ever had as a species. Right? Think about it. Think about where that's gotten us today. Anyway, I'll nip it in the bud. I'm repeating myself. I appreciate you sending that email in, man. That is an incredible, incredible experience. Do I think it was them that healed you? Haven't a clue. Don't know. We have a lot of people claim that these beings can heal us. We have a lot of people claim that they have been healed. And then we have a lot of people who claim to have developed some sort of similar cancers after being in contact. So a lot of people think that maybe possibly these beings are all radioactive. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think possibly they can handle the radiation they expose themselves to at various places on the face of the planet and wherever else. Obviously, I think they must be able to handle it and pick it up, and maybe along the route somewhere some unfortunate people, like a couple of scientists, have picked up cancer from the radiation those beings picked up along their ride. Maybe. I don't know. I'm babbling. Let's hear somebody else. Let's hear everybody, right? Strange experiences during a military nighttime exercise. This is a common theme. Excuse me, Mr. Isdall. I'll start off by telling you how I found your YouTube channels, which I think is very interesting. After becoming a functional quadriplegic from a freak accident that almost killed me, I've cheated death more than once in my life, I found I had too much time on my hands. I began watching and listening to the Sean Show podcast while doing my own in-home physical therapy. Nino was a guest on there and decided to watch his channel, and then watched your interview on Nino's channel and began to watch your channel a few months ago. That's kind of cool. I got a lot of respect for Sean and Nino. I know for a fact that Sean's held back in a way in his channel. He's had a couple strikes and he's shaving the line and getting deleted, so he's been shying away from some topics. Okay, sorry. Mr. Isdall, you can use my name, Junior Mendoza. I won't give you my birth given name because everyone slaughters the pronunciation of it, and it makes me cringe when I hear people attempt without success to pronounce it. Most people who are close to me call me Bullet. I've had the nickname since the age of 18 years of age. I'm 51 now. Okay, man. Gotcha. I grew up in the dusty, flat South Plains of Texas that is known as the Llano Estacado. The same area where people like Buddy Holly and Waylon Jennings grew up. It also has history of UFO sightings, such as the Lubbock Lights and a UFO sighting in Cleveland, Texas, as well as an owl man sighting in Sundown, Texas. I've had paranormal experiences literally all my life, beginning at my earliest memories of being in the crib. I'm not sure if it has anything to do to my ancestors being of Mayan descent. The area I grew up in was very rural and secluded, no forest, rivers, or freshwater lakes. There's several salt lakes in the region. My childhood was spent outdoors going for long walks or riding my bicycle for hours. Now to the point of this email. During 1995, I was stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana. This is my first time actually living in an area that had a forest. We were conducting a nighttime military exercise where we were conducting A nighttime military vehicle convoy. No headlights or white light is to be used during this convoy once leaving the blacktop public roadway. Yes, some accidents did occur at times, but never serious accidents. Our max speed, if I recall correctly, was no more than 35 miles per hour. Once entering a trail in the woods, we went blackout. All white light is prohibited. Flashlights must be used with a colored lens. The convoy lasted possibly an hour or more to reach our destination. Once we reached our destination, we began to set up a perimeter, and the rest of the personnel began to set up tents and basically set up camp. I and a couple of guys who were actually from Louisiana were set up at a post with the M60 machine gun. We were doing our best to practice noise control and whispering to each other about how to best camouflage our position. The hour was approximately 0200 a.m. I began to hear what I can only explain as the sounds of an ape. I never gave any real serious thought of Bigfoot throughout my life. It just wasn't a subject that I gave much attention to. About a year ago, I was watching David Paulides documentaries, The 411 Missing. When the scene of the Sierra sounds played, it triggered my memory of the sounds I heard that night during the military exercise. That night, at the security post, I asked the guys who were with me, "What the hell is that noise? That sounds like a bunch of monkeys." The guys with me stated they didn't know, because they had never been that deep into the woods at night, which I actually thought was odd. Then I noticed that the woods got eerily quiet. All of a sudden, a thunder-like sound filled the night air. I thought, hell, my rain gear's in my rucksack inside my assigned military vehicle yards away. The sound of rumbling thunder got closer. Then, a bunch of what seemed like wild horses ran through our perimeter. I said loudly, "What the F is going on?" Luckily, no one was trampled on, but everyone had the shit scared out of them with these horses coming out of nowhere at the dead of night. I cannot say with confidence that the sounds we heard that night was a group of Sabe people in the deep woods of Louisiana. All I know is that some of the vocalization of the Sierra sounds are very similar to what we heard. A while back ago, I heard a story on a podcast about another individual who was stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana, who had encountered 2 different hellhounds during a supply run to a military camp deep in the woods. I wonder if what we heard could possibly have made the vocalizations we heard. I'm sure I'll never get that answered. I hope this helps someone in some way, especially for those who are stationed at Fort Polk, or anyone who will be going to that area for hunting or fishing. And by the way, Isdal, we have a similar no BS attitude. Even when I was a snot-nosed kid, I never gave a damn about what people thought of me. I really enjoy your channel. You're doing what no one else seems to want to do. That is giving a voice to everyone who emails you. I also really enjoy your interview with Dr. Melba Ketchum. Much of what she discovered are things I had theorized when I began to look into these beings or people. Keep up the great work, Isdal. Bullet out. Okay, Bullet, appreciate you sending that in, man. Fort Polk, yeah, we've heard from there a few times, right? Without a doubt. We've heard from Louisiana hundreds of times. Now, the horse thing you said, so, just for me, maybe I missed something, but, so, it was horses that came through camp, or it sounded like horses that came through camp? Which one? I think he probably meant it sounded like a bunch of horses ripped through camp. That would make sense for what the shit's going on, right? But I don't think it was actual physical horses, a herd of horses ran through, because you probably would have said how many and what colors or whatever, right? Anyway, that's just one question comes to mind with your email was it just it sounded like a herd of horses going through camp is what I think possibly you meant. Fort Polk, appreciate you again, man. Really appreciate you sending that in. Here's another one. Orbs in the woods. Oh, that reminds me, before I get going. So, the day we got back from being away, I went to the grocery store here in town, and a kind man, I think his name was John, came up to me. He's getting some groceries in. He goes, right away, he goes, "Steve, I knew I'd probably run into you eventually in town. So he's been following the channel. And he lives up the valley here, just this side of the Beaufort Mountains. And he said he hasn't seen one of these beings yet, doesn't want to. But they did have what he described as a volleyball-sized ball of light ripped around in their house and then went and disappeared up through the ceiling. Creepy, right? Very creepy to hear that firsthand. Somebody looking you in the eye and saying, you know, I've never seen one of these beings, but guess what we did have in the house? The bright light in your house, just up the road here. And we've had them here too. I haven't seen them here. The kids have seen them. Sarah's seen them in the house, but not the bright white. They've been blue and red balls of light in our house. Okay, sorry. Back to the voices. This is titled Orbs in the Woods. Hey Steve, hope this email finds you happy and healthy. You can read my name and I'll be brief. Back in the mid to late 70s, my dad, cousins, and several others went on a night ride on their snowmobiles at Medicine Lake in Northern California, about 50 miles from our hometown. I couldn't go because Dad said it was too dangerous for a young girl. I was probably around 12 or so, and I was bummed, but I understood. They weren't expected back until about 3 or 4 a.m. But around 11 p.m., my dad and my cousins walked in the door. Not only were they home early, but my cousins stopped in too, which is odd. They were adults and had their own homes. They had never followed us home after a day out on the sleds before. I was confused. I thought maybe there was an accident or something, but I wasn't even close. My dad had an odd look on his face, and I asked him what was the matter. He told me they had all seen a red orb floating through the woods. He said the whole section of forest was lit up, and that it moved slowly through the pines, glowing bright red. I instantly said, "Oh, Dad, it was just someone's taillights." And he said, "No, it wasn't taillights." And I proceeded to rib him about it. I laughed at him, but my cousins backed up the story. So I decided that they were just trying to scare me. I never paid too much mind to it after that, but I knew Dad was a straight arrow. He never lied about anything. That fact has gnawed on me for years. Knowing what I know, I'm 100% positive they were telling the truth. Also, we rarely ran our sleds with the other men who saw it after that. Oh, let me read that one more time. Also, we rarely ran our sleds with the other men who saw it after that. I guess they didn't want the subject to come back up. I'm sure some of them were questioning their sanity because back in the 70s, media made fun of people who saw UFOs and Sasquatch. They still do, but not like it was back then. Looking back now, I regret ridiculing him. I wish he were still alive today so I could apologize and possibly get more info out of him, but he passed in 1996 at the age of 75. I'm writing this to the viewers of your channel as a cautionary tale. I regret what I said, and I wish I could take it back. If someone is opening up about something that seems crazy, listen to them. And above all, be kind to them. Regrets are hard to live with, especially when there is no chance of undoing it. Thanks for your dedication, Steve. What you do is not only informative, but it's therapeutic. That's very important after you've had a traumatic event like the ones which have been shared here. Maggie Otis in Arizona. Maggie, appreciate it. I'm sure your dad knows. I wouldn't feel guilt or feel bad about that. It's just knowledge. It's just knowledge, right? It's lack of knowledge at the time. It's innocent. He knows it. But it's true. The regrets are true. Everything's true. You got to be a safe place, right? That's one thing I tried to share with everyone earlier is when somebody comes up to you and shares something that you might find alarming or not agree with, and you shit on those people or laugh at them, the big point that a lot of people aren't picking up is those people saw you as a safe place. They thought that you were a safe place they could share shit with you, and then you rammed it down their throat and the only thing you did was you proved to them that nope, you aren't a safe place. That sucks, right? That sucks. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I pride myself in being a safe place, and I pride my home in being the absolute safe place for everyone living in it. Period. That's mandatory. We're supposed to be men. Men are supposed to provide the safe place at all costs, right? For everything around the... I am babbling. I'll stop there. Appreciate you sending that in. Big time. That's a good message to pass on to the people. All right. This next email is titled Multiple Experiences from North Carolina. Hello, Steve. I have had a few experiences with these things, some questionable, some unexplainable. I'll start with my possible sighting. I was 14, fishing a private lake on a John boat with a friend from church. When the sun started to go behind the trees, we got excited. That meant we had about 30 minutes left to fish, and it would be the best time to put on our top water bass lures. My personal favorite was called a whopper plopper. As we trolled into a secluded cove, I noticed something crouched down, but on two legs, and moved behind a group of trees. It was light brown in color. Neither of us could say what it was, but we were freaked the hell out. I can't say for sure that this was a Sasquatch, but I also can't come up with anything else for it to be. We were so freaked out. Just from seeing it for a second, we got the hell out of there and didn't stick around for a second look. Now, if it's just a deer or a bear or something, why do we become terrified upon seeing it? Sorry, Steve, this will be a long one, but I'm sending it all. LOL. Let her rip, man. Experience 2. My grandparents... Oops. Hold on a minute. Experience 2. My grandparents have lived near this private lake for almost 50 years, and there's also 276 acres of land around their home that they didn't own, but me and my friends had permission to ride quads on when we were younger. I was riding on the back of my friend's four-wheeler, and his dad was riding on his own four-wheeler. We were riding at night in the summertime. We had driven back into the woods through 3 fields, and were down in a creek bottom next to a creek. There was a remote camping area, fire pit, not used a lot. In fact, we never used it. We would just go down there to ride around and chill out. We had no intentions on using the fire pit or anything this night. We were just wanting to ride. My friend's dad had been drinking and needed to stop for a pee. So we stopped at the fire pit, and he said, "Hey guys, let's turn off our quad lights and just listen." Myself, I wanted no part in this, but I didn't say a damn thing, LOL. Didn't want to sound like a pussy. Pardon my language. Just telling it like it is. Anyways, we cut our lights off, and it was the darkest I've ever seen. I mean dark as in couldn't see your hand if it was touching your face. My friend's dad says, "Hey, we're going to be on Finding Bigfoot tonight," and let out one of those silly Bigfoot calls just like they do on the show. Steve. About 15 seconds after he'd done this, we heard a loud growl/roar coming from about 30 yards away from us. We all just about shit ourselves. Couldn't see a damn thing. The dad in the group was scared too. Screamed at us to hurry. The trails were tight in those woods and rough, so you couldn't go that fast until you made it out of the woods and into the open fields. Every turn and bump in those woods, I was terrified something was going to grab me off the back of the quad. Thank God we made it back into the fields and went as fast as the Honda Rancher would go all the way home. We never spoke much about it. I don't know why. Recently this year, Grandpa was walking his dog on the property and was just telling me about this massive whitetail buck he saw. He's seen some big bucks over the years, but the way he described this one to me, he said it was the biggest he had ever seen. I told him I may go stick a game camera out next to their house just to see if I could get a picture of it. My grandmother's words in response to this were, quote, "Be grateful you might get something on there you don't want to see," end quote, in a joking manner. It wasn't a good time to talk when she said that quietly to me. There were other guests over. I still haven't brought it back up, but I know I need to. She may have some knowledge that I could reach back out to you and share again. Good idea, man. She obviously has something for sure. Saying that, Experience number 3, / questions. I'm 20 years old now. I recently moved out of my parents' house last year and started renting a house with a buddy of mine. Good for you, man. Good for you to man up. I've been living in this house for about 6 months now, and it's been great. Landowner let us hunt and fish and do whatever we want. I recently harvested my biggest whitetail to date behind the house in October. I've been blessed to be able to call this place home. And I would like to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for always watching over me. I've enjoyed living here, but there have been some experiences. One night I was sitting in the living room watching TV when I heard an owl hooting right behind the house. Excuse me. But it sounded so weird, Steve. It honestly sounded exactly like someone faking an owl call, but couldn't quite get it right. I've been watching your video for about a year now, and when I heard this, all those reports of the owl call came to mind, and I thought to myself, damn it, not here, why here? I want nothing to do with these things. The owl calls continue to happen every now and then. Last week I heard the same one at the same spot. Behind the house, owl calling, and then one to the left of the house, owl calling back. And then a high-pitched squeal that woke up my dog and startled him. Steve, I want to blame these sounds on actual owls, but they don't sound like actual owls if they are owls. What are the odds of them being behind my house every few days around midnight? And more than one? I'd say pretty slim. But I'd like to hear your opinion on these things. I leave early for work in the mornings, always before daylight. Some mornings I'm just on edge. Other mornings I'm scared. I've got a spotlight as bright as the sun and a loaded 9mm on me at all times when I'm outside my home after dark. It doesn't matter if I'm going from the front door to my car. I'm always on edge out there. Whenever I'm scared or can't sleep, I just say a prayer. I know God is on my side and nothing can stand against him. Thanks for sharing this email, Steve. I honestly don't feel like proofreading it after typing all that. So, good luck. LOL, your friend Drew. Okay, Drew. You did it great. It's just me, right? I've got the reflections, these stupid readers I can't stand, and I fumble fairly often. And just so you guys know, I'm no expert, man. I share every single thing I got here with all of you. So we're all on the same page. Well, almost everything. Sorry. Yes, I've been told things and asked not to share publicly. Obviously. No big deal. But getting back to you, I'm not the expert on this, but you already know. The questions we ask, I believe we already know the answers to, especially if you write into me or us here and ask them. Your gut already knows. Your gut knows everything. I believe we subconsciously know everything. We just got to battle through the walls that have been intentionally put in us, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not, but my gut's telling me I'm right. So if your gut's telling you to be nervous, be nervous. Right? You're scared? How many people admit to being scared to walk out the door and go to a vehicle when that same person goes hunting with confidence and is successful? Doesn't mesh up, right? Doesn't mesh up. So if somebody's just naturally paranoid and scared and anxious, they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going hunting by themselves, right? It's not just going to come and go sporadically, but I don't know. I think you're on the right track to keep yourself safe and you got the right attitude, right? I've said it before, that's what I do. You know I'm here. I know you're here. I don't give a shit about you. Let's not ruin this for each other, okay? And I've changed my tone as well. I remember like a few years back, for a handful of years, when I went in the woods, I just said flat out, I didn't have the how do you describe my language? Quite colorful language when I spoke too. I said you effing, I would say every freaking insulting swear word you can come up with. And say flat out, I'll put holes in you and your whole family. Just leave me alone. Don't F with me. I will shoot the living shit out of you. Was my attitude, my demeanor when verbalizing when I would be in the woods by myself in the dark. But keep in mind, I have seen these beings before and didn't know what. I didn't know nothing, right? You just know, all you know is that alarming feeling And but the drive to live, but thankfully my drive to live my life and enjoy my passions overtook my potential to be scared to quit. Thank God. But I think I needed to carry myself that way to help me continue on, right? Being all right. I mean, obviously when people act like that, deep down they're scared, right? I'll admit it. But I had to, I guess that's just what I needed to do for me to push through, was to get possibly scared and say flat out, leave me alone. I'm going to shoot the living shit out of you, right? And I would say it with some colorful other words and sentences. But I've changed my tune a lot. Oops, let's move the. I just say flat out, you know I'm here. I know you're out here. Just leave me alone, man. Just leave me alone. For the most part, it's kind of worked, right? You guys have seen shit go on behind me. You guys have seen things thrown at me. I've had things thrown at me that I'm aware of, but I've also had things thrown that I wasn't aware of. But for the most part, it's been working for me. So if that can help you, the original emailer, out at all, I think you're on the right track. I think you got this. And I think by the sounds of it, like many other people here, you're just you're happy to have a safe place like this and a bunch of like-minded people to share your shit with, right? Word for word, not be nervous about it. And if you got anything else you want to email back, email all of us anytime you want. All right? If you have anything else happen, any knowledge, any experiences you have as you go, and you want to talk about it, this is the place. Email me back again, all right? And I'm super stoked that you're not quitting. Don't quit. Super stoked to hear that. So, oh, and if you feel like, you can email me a picture of your buck. Now, on that note, things that happened behind me. I was going through my phone last night when I woke up at 2 in the morning, and I was looking for a certain photograph, and I came across something that was emailed to me that I forgot to share with everyone. Now give me a second, I'll see if I can find it here, and I'll share it here. Alright, so we'll go over this together. So, when was this? This was a year before last, September, and I was out intentionally looking for huge Roosevelt elk on the island here. About halfway to, well, I won't say where. But anyway, and I shared that video. Remember, so I looked downhill in the timber and you can see a great big bull standing there, and I whistled at him a couple times. And I think I've used that in my intros on here. Anyway, this isn't uncommon. It's not uncommon for people to email and say, hey, I've seen this behind you, or they're all around you, or whatever. I get that all the time. But I thought I would share this one. It's been sitting on my phone for a while. I don't sadly, unfortunately, I don't recall who sent this or when, but it's been in my phone for a while, and I keep forgetting to share it with you, and I'm going to share it with you. But what I will additionally share with you guys is this particular day, and I know I didn't say anything publicly about it. Excuse me. But when I went there, and I didn't bring a gun because I don't have an elk tag, and I don't deer hunt there. There's not too many deer on there, so there's no reason for me to bring a gun. There's no grizzly bears to bump into. I guess I know, yeah, I should always be armed, right? But sometimes I just don't. My gut says it's okay. Anyway, I filmed that big bull down there, and then they all sifted off through the valley bottom. I was up on the side of the mountain. So I drove back down the logging road, the old logging road, about probably a mile and a bit, and then I got down level with them on the valley floor. And then I decided, well, I'm going to go in that timber. I'm going to go in there and see if I can bump into them in the timber and videotape them. And I had an elk call with me. So I went in there, big dark timber, right? You can see in the video with the bull, it's big dark timber. And I went in there, and I'm going along, and I got quite a ways back in that valley bottom, in that big timber, dark timber. And then I could see on the ground where the herd had they already gone all the way across valley bottom. Like, oh. And then back in the direction I just come from, I heard a noise. I heard a noise that made me go, oh shit, right? I know I didn't share that publicly at the time from that video, but that's what happened. But I had my video camera was rolling that whole time. Why did I have the camera rolling? I think I was just filming. Yeah, I filmed my whole walk in to show it was pretty cool, creepy timber. I didn't feel overly creeped out, a little creeped out, I'll admit. But I had the video camera rolling the whole time and I caught the sound on video. And then I was trying to edit that up and I just hadn't had time and I left it in a folder and I never pursued editing that up to share with you guys. I was just like, whatever. That's just me. That's just me. I hear shit and see shit sometimes and I'm just like, oh well, there you go, whatever. Now to shrug it off, probably more for me. But anyway, I'm babbling, but this is probably why I'm interested in sharing this when normally I don't really pay too much attention to people that email me in pictures and say, hey, look at this is behind you. But this particular day, I heard a creepy sound from the direction I came in, and then I remember being stressed out because I had to go back that way to get to my truck. Nothing more came of it. But once I heard the sound, I said, in my usual, just fucking leave me alone, man. Leave me alone. And I looked down and hiked all the way out because I just don't need it. I don't need to be 300 meters into a deep, dark patch of timber without, again, solo, and have somebody breathe down my neck all the way to the truck. I'm not into that happening. I'm not into it. I already had my flavor of that experience in life already. But anyways, let's go over these pictures together, right? And I'll share with you now. So there's the bull. There's the bull looking downhill, and I think I was about 100 yards from him, maybe 80. And this person saw something in the background and circled it. Okay. And then we carry on, and there's these photos are all sent to me. So here's this thing in the background, shape, and then sent in 4. And it definitely looks like that shape changes a little bit in these 4 photos. And then they did another photo with some kind of filter. So there you go. It was sent to me. I told you the backstory on me in that day. And I shared the photos with you. Take it from what you will or leave it. It's definitely odd though, isn't it? Definitely odd, a little creepy. Just looks like potentially a forehead and nose and eyes ducked down looking up at me. You never know, right? Well, how would the elk not know? Well, how do we not know? It's like anything's possible at this point of the stage of the game, but how do we not know? It's like the man that emailed in about being picked up, and then the being that had him to her chest backed up to a tree, and the person said they almost knew the brother wasn't going to be able to see them. That's something to think about, right? Sure, I think when I read those experiences similar to that, it always makes me think, and I've said this earlier, when I've been in some of the places in the coastal mountains of BC alone, right where all this shit goes down nonstop, and I'm talking big, huge fir trees, big timber, and some places I can see for quite a ways in those sloped mountains. And there's a couple of spots I frequent and go through, and I rarely see anything alive in there. And that spot comes to mind, follow me here, is when I sometimes, even now, I think, I wonder what would happen if I went into that timber and I sat there for hours, used my binoculars, whatever, and just gazed at those big fir tree trunks. Every single one that I could see in the distance, up to sometimes 150 yards. And I wonder what you would see, right? If you stopped looking for game. Because I do know from my guiding career, especially, follow me, when I've been up north in the northern Rocky Mountains, okay, I'm guiding moose. Okay, we're going to use the same trail, same valley, same mountains. We're looking for moose. We see lots of moose. And maybe a few days later, the next week, okay, I got a guy who wants a big caribou. Use the same trail, same valleys. Start looking, we see caribou, right? Or even stone sheep. And we go see sheep or grizzlies. And we glass for grizzly, we see grizzlies. Or black bear, we see black bears, nothing else. It's because our mind isn't focusing on other items. right? We know in our mind what we're looking for and looking at and trying to find, and that's what we see. I hope I'm making sense. What I'm saying is, I wonder what would happen. I've never done this, probably because I don't really want to, but I'm curious. What would happen if we went into that big timber and sat there? Like we'll sit all day long in one place, using your spot and scope and binoculars all day. I wonder what would happen if I went into the timber where I could see a fair distance and just sat there and gazed at the trees, at the tree trunks. I mean, really looked at them one at a time. Wonder what that would possibly bring into view, if it would. That's a curiosity of mine. Not curious enough to do it, because that would mean I'm going out intentionally seeking these beings out, which I quit doing. But for the curious, for all those of you who are into it, I wonder what that would bring. If you went into that big timber and you sat down for hours and start gazing at those trees. Right? It's a thought, right? For all you people that are out there looking and trying to create that experience, maybe give it a go. Maybe give it a go. But as soon as I heard that guy describe about being drawn in and that being took him tight to that tree and knew they weren't going to be seen, that sort of went, there's my little curious thought on gazing at those big tree trunks in the big dark timber for quite some time and seeing what would come of it. But you never know, right? That relates back to the elk. When people might think, well, what's it going to be doing there? And the elk isn't aware of his presence. I believe these beings can be anywhere and keep themselves concealed from a lot more than just us. Although they don't seem to be able to dupe canines too well, do they? Anyway, I better get going. I'm really rambling and babbling today. I hope it made sense. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Email me. Email us. It's not me, it's us now, right? Guess it always has been. Share my story at howtohunt.com. You got some knowledge to share? Something to help you? Something to help me? Something to help the people? Email it to us. All right? Just do it. Quit thinking about it, just do it. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Now, moving along. Lots to do. I got to get prepped, get ready. I'm going to get people in here. And I also got some podcasts to do. I got some traveling to do, which is directly 100% geared up for this and all of us. So, here we go.